trust me, guys, this is not the video that I wanted to put out today. Valve just dropped some news about the Steam hardware, and I think that they said that it's not delayed, but it's totally delayed because the language that they used was very, very specific. After announcing the Steam Machine, which is a follow-up to their original Steam machines, which is basically a living room PC. I mean, you don't have to hook it up in a living room, but it's a living room PC. You hook up to your TV and you play it like a traditional console. The Steam controller, which is a follow-up to their original Steam controller, one of my favorite controllers of all time. So I'm super excited about the controller. And then they also announced the Steam Frame, which is their newest VR headset. They announced all of these things in November, and they said, well, these things are going to come out in early 2026. And then on a recent episode of the NerdNest podcast, which is my podcast that you should subscribe to, it's available here on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever podcasts are found. You can find it there. Just subscribe, and then it's ready for you whenever you got to do the dishes or get something done around the house. You have something great to listen to. We have so much fun doing that show. But anyway, on a recent episode of that podcast, we were trying to define what exactly does Valve mean when they say early 2026. Do they mean in the first 3 months? Do they mean in the first 6 months? And honestly, I was being like super generous to Valve, and mostly I was just doing devil's advocate stuff. And I was like, maybe they could mean all the way up to June as early. I mean, if you split the year in half and you have early and you have late, then sure, the first half of the year is early. But I think most people were expecting, and honestly I was too, for it to be within the first 3 months. So somewhere around February or March for a release date. Probably February to pre-order and then March to actually get these things in our hands. Well, it looks like that's not going to happen. So why isn't it going to happen? Well, I mean, you guys already know. It's the supply chain issues that everybody has been experiencing. It is the Rampocalypse, as one of my viewers had, named this current situation where AI companies are buying up all of the RAM and making it so expensive that nobody else can buy it. Now, I had hypothesized that Valve had already built so many of these Steam machines and Steam frames, and they had them somewhere in a warehouse and they were ready to go. But it looks like, even if that is true, it looks like they don't have enough, that they don't have enough to say that they were comfortable with how many that they have. And so they are experiencing some supply chain issues when it comes to getting the parts that they need to make these devices. And so they put out a blog post today, and I'm not going to read you the whole blog post. I'm just going to go through a few parts of it and just talk about what I think about it. But before I do, I want to thank the sponsor of this video. Once in a while, you just need some extra screen real estate. This is the Arzopa 16.1 inch, 180 Hz, 1440p QHD portable monitor. This is great if you're on the go with your handheld PC and you want to play games with friends without needing to crowd around a tiny 7-inch screen. It has a 180 Hz refresh rate, so your games are going to feel more responsive, and it supports HDR and 107% sRGB color accuracy. But we don't spend all of our time playing video games. Sometimes you're traveling and you need just an extra monitor to get work done on the go a little faster. This is perfect for that. Its super slim unibody design is just 9.3 millimeters thin and only 780 grams. So you can throw it in your backpack and ignore it until you need it. And its simple single cable plug and play makes the screen super easy to use in any conditions. So whether you're looking to game on a bigger screen when you're on the go, or to get those TPS reports done just a little bit faster so you can get back to your favorite game, the Arzopa Z3 FC portable monitor has you covered. Make sure you check out the link in the description down below, and a big thank you to Arzopa for sponsoring this episode. So their original plan was to launch in early 2026. That is the words that they used, early 2026. Well, now they're using some very different language. Here's what they said. When we announced these products in November, we planned on being able to share specific pricing and launch dates by now, but the memory and storage shortages that you've likely heard about across the industry have rapidly increased since then. The limited availability and growing prices of these critical components mean we must revisit our exact shipping schedule and pricing, especially around Steam Machine and Steam Frame. Okay, so that's basically them saying, look, we wanted to tell you at this point, we expected to have already told you the price, probably already expected you to pre-order these things. But as soon as we announced our hardware, there was this huge issue with RAM prices and storage prices just absolutely skyrocketing. So we had to put our plans on hold while we figure out what exactly to do. But then they go on to say, our goal of shipping all three products in the first half of the year has not changed. Okay, that paragraph I'm going to come back to in a second, but what they said there at the end of that sentence, our goal of shipping in the first half of the year has not changed. Well, originally when they announced, they said early 2026. And now they're saying the first half of the year. Again, maybe they always planned on shipping by June and early 2026 and the first half of 2026 to Valve. Maybe that's the same thing. I'm skeptical that it is. Even though I argued for that on the podcast, but I was really just playing devil's advocate. But it seems like that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to say that the first half is early 2026. So I expect now that we'll probably we'll talk about when I think pre-orders will actually happen and when the devices will actually get in our hands later on in the video. Let's go back to that paragraph. But we have work to do to land on concrete pricing and launch dates that we can confidently announce. Being mindful of how quickly the circumstances around both of these things can change, we will keep you updated as much as we can while we finalize those plans as soon as possible. Okay, so if you are somebody who is really itching to pre-order a Steam Machine, a Steam Frame, a Steam Controller, if you're somebody who's itching to pre-order those things, here's what I think we're going to see now. Originally, I thought pre-orders in February or at the end of January, and then the delivered devices in March. Now, I think we're probably going to see pre-orders in in April, and then devices delivered in June, maybe early June. And that's just what I'm thinking. I don't have any insider knowledge here. I'm just making a guess as a fan. But let's talk about the price. I think there's a lot of people who've been talking about how the Steam Machine is going to be priced. And when Valve first announced it, I made a prediction that it was going to be about $650. I felt like that was a fair price for what we were getting for this particular hardware, and Valve could still eke out a little bit of a profit on it. They've said over and over that they have no interest in subsidizing this hardware. They're going to sell it like a PC does. But the prices of PCs have gone up because of the Rampocalypse. And because of that, I feel like maybe my $650 prediction, I'm starting to waver on that. And that's because new things have happened. You know, you can't just stick to your guns every single time. Just because originally I said $650 doesn't mean that it's definitely going to land there. So now I'm starting to think maybe $750 is going to be the price that we're going to land on for the Steam Machine. And there's going to be people in the comments down below, right down below the like button where you can click the like and you could click on subscribe, and you should do that because I'm like this close to 100,000 subscribers and it would be awesome to hit that this month. But there's going to be comments down below where there's going to be people that say dead on arrival or DOA. And I'm going to ignore what those people are saying because there is, for those people, it is dead on arrival. But guess what? It never was something that they were really going to be interested in anyway. I think most people who are interested in something like this are interested in it not because it is the best bang for your buck, but they're interested in it because it's small, because it's quiet, and because it's console-like, and you're going to be able to use it in your living room without having to jump through any hoops. And I think that that is very, very compelling. But their entire post was not just about the Rampocalypse. They were also talking about performance of the Steam Machine. Now, when the Steam Machine was first announced, basically Valve was saying you can play your entire library at 4K 60 with FSR on. And that means, for those of you that don't know, FSR is upscaling. So what you're doing is you're actually playing the game at a lower resolution and then upscaling that resolution to a higher resolution. And if the upscaling does a good enough job, then you really usually can't tell unless you pause the video or you pause it or you zoom way in to try and find those artifacts. Now, of course, there are some people who can spot that stuff right away. For me, I'm fine. Most of the time, I can't even notice upscaling issues. Not to say that every time you can't, because if you upscale too much, like let's say you're running a game at like 720p and you upscale to 4K, well, you're definitely going to see issues. And what Valve has said here is that some titles, they need more upscaling than others in order to hit that 4K 60 with FSR. And of course they do, because there's some games that are extremely demanding on your hardware, and there's other games that will run natively at 4K 120 hertz on the Steam Machine, no problem. As far as power for the Steam Machine, they haven't changed anything, but they are just, I wouldn't say that they're moving the goalposts. I think what they're doing is they're giving a little bit of clarification in order to set people's expectations. I think that Valve made a huge mistake when they said that the entire Steam library will run at 4K 60 with FSR on, because 90% of the people who are, looking at this thing, they don't even know what FSR is. And because they don't know it, they're just like, oh, everything's going to run at 4K 60. And then they're going to buy the device and they're going to plug it in and they're going to say, this isn't 4K 60. What the hell is this crap? So I think that Valve made a mistake by saying those particular numbers. And now it's not like they're walking it back, but they're just adding a little clarification and giving people more information. The issue is that the people who need this information are not going to be the people who are reading these blog posts, which is why I got to make a video about it. You know what I mean? Okay, they also said that they're working on HDMI variable refresh rate. If you don't know what variable refresh rate is, essentially when your game is running, I'm just going to make up some numbers here. Let's say that your game is running at 100 frames per second. And if that number is not easily divisible by the refresh rate of your screen that you're playing on, then you might see some tearing. So what variable refresh rate does is it tells the screen, hey, the game is running at this frame rate. Set your refresh rate to be the same as this frame rate, and everything's going to feel a lot smoother. Well, the problem here is because Valve can't use HDMI 2.1 because it has the drivers are not available on Linux, because Linux is open source and the drivers that are basically controlled by the HDMI forum, they're closed source. So you can't put closed source stuff into an open source thing. So Valve has been trying to figure out how to get around this in order to make sure that we have HDMI variable refresh rate. And there's going to be people in the comments that are going to say, well, just use the display port instead. It's better. Yeah, it is better, but most people are going to be hooking these things up to a TV. TVs don't have display ports. At least most people's TVs don't. I made an entire video all about this topic. I will leave it linked down below so that you can check it out. And let me know what you guys think. It seems like Valve is saying, look, we've got the Rampocalypse, we've got pricing and supply chain issues that we're trying to figure out. On top of that, we're still working on HDMI VRR. It doesn't look like they necessarily have it completely figured out, because they said the words working on. If they had said we've solved it, well, then that would be different. But now it seems like they're still working on it. And so when you combine the Rampocalypse, the supply chain issues, the fact that they haven't completely nailed variable refresh rate on HDMI yet, it makes sense why they're going to delay, even though they're not calling it a delay, because they've just changed the wording from early 2026 to the first half of 2026. And a lawyer could easily say, well, that's what they meant in the first place, even if it's not. Next up, let's talk about the Steam controller. I was really, really hoping that Valve would say at the bottom of this blog post, hey, we know that people are really excited about the new Steam controller, and the new Steam controller doesn't contain any RAM and it doesn't contain any storage. So it's not affected by the supply chain issues. It's not affected by the Rampocalypse, and it's not affected by HDMI not having VRR on Linux. So we're going to ship it at our original date anyway, but they didn't say that. But what do you guys think about this? I have 3 questions that I want you to answer in the comment section down below that like button. Number 1, which of the 3 things are you most excited about? For me, I'm much more excited about the Steam controller. I love the original Steam controller. The Steam Deck is fantastic in the hand, and I cannot wait to get my hands on the new Steam controller. So that's number 1 for me. Number 2 is the Steam machine. I don't need it because I have a more powerful PC, but I could use another PC in the house. I could put it down in my living room and play downstairs instead of up here. So that's something else that I am excited for. And then the Steam VR. Again, not a super big guy into VR, but I'm definitely interested in seeing what Valve is doing with VR moving forward. Plus the idea of having that giant screen, even if I only have a 50-inch TV over here, that sounds really interesting as well. The second thing that I want to ask you guys about: when do you think that we're actually going to get our hands on with these devices? When do you think the pre-orders will happen? When do you think they will actually ship? And then the third thing, how much do you think it's all going to cost? So answer those questions in the comment section down below that like button. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. From the Nerd Nest, I'm Bill. Thanks for watching, and stay rad, everybody.